everybody. Welcome back to Crafting and Crime Daily. This is the show where I, your host, Rebecca, recap life trials so you have something to listen to while you're crafting. Look, I crafted this cute little hat. It's a slouchy beanie. It is made out of, and this was not the easiest pattern. A lot of front post, back post, front post, back post, oh God, I can't talk. Front post crochet, double and triple crochets. Not that that's difficult, but it's just this type of yarn that has this beautiful halo on it, and that makes adds a little level of difficulty to it. So it's Huga yarn by Red Heart. Yes, Red Heart makes a decent yarn. It's a 5 weight. It's super soft and super warm, and the color is powder, and you can machine wash it if I happen to slip and fall into a mud puddle or something. Yeah. Anyway, I used 1.5 skeins for this. Also, big yarn eater, this one. Yes. Just because I wanted it to slouch in the back, you know. So I made it a little larger than what the pattern called for. If you want the pattern, let me know. It's a YouTube video. I'll forward it to you. It's not Bag a Day. It's somebody else. But I liked this pattern. So anyway, back to the trial of Cara Rentala for the death of her wife, Anna Marie Rentala. This happened back in 2010. Oh, you're wondering about the thumbnail, aren't you? Yes. Watch to the end, and I will tell you what I finally did. I did it. Yes, I just said I've had enough, and I did it. Watch the end. I'll tell you what it is I did. First, coffee. Wow, I'm just looking at this spider web that needs to, it's like inside the window. Isn't that weird? Okay, that needs to come down. So Friday morning, they had the medical examiner on the stand. Older lady, she now lives in Florida. So sorry. So sorry. Anyway, she lives in Florida and she retired, came back for the trial. So she did not go to the scene. Now, we've figured out by now, this is a very small town up in Massachusetts. Or is it Minnesota? What is it? Minnesota. Oh my God. Something with an M. All right. Minnesota. So she does not come to the scene. We figured out by now it is a very, very small town here. The first responders that are sitting at the dining room table, the police, the responding police officer, his sergeant, the paramedic, they're all sitting there with Cara Rentala chit-chatting while she's making phone calls, and they're waiting for the state to come in and take over the investigation because they don't have the resources to investigate this case themselves, nor the knowledge, apparently, because no one called the medical examiner to come down to the scene. So the state gets there, they take over the investigation. The Emmy gets involved. She does an autopsy, and the cause of death is manual strangulation. It wasn't readily apparent to the officers because there was some blood. It was clear she had a head injury, but they just, they didn't see guns or knives or anything like that. There was a struggle in the basement, clearly. So the medical examiner said she died. The cause of death was manual strangulation. And she said she would have gone unconscious in as little as 10 seconds. And her death would have occurred. It takes about 4 minutes for the death to occur, but it can be accelerated if there's other things going on with the body, like blunt force trauma to the head. Yeah, she had been hit in the head 3 times, and the lacerations, 3 large lacerations, went all the way down to the skull. And we don't know what the heck she was hit on the head with, but good Lord. And 2 contusions. Then she said she had bruising all over her body, back of the legs, front of the legs, the torso, the back, the arms. She said she had 23 clusters of bruises. And so they were asking about the timing of the bruises, and she said they appeared to be recent. That's not entirely helpful, is it? But recent. I would have asked, do they all seem to have been had occurred at the same time? Because there's different levels of healing. So you'll see yellow, purple, you know how bruises go. But nobody asked her that question. So they did a toxicology screen because that's what they do on all the bodies. And hers was negative. She was not under the influence of drugs or alcohol at the time that she was murdered. Oh my God. What a horrible, horrible way to die. So this medical examiner, because she did not go to the scene, did not have any first-hand knowledge of the timing of the death. So she was relying on the reports from the officers that first arrived at the scene, who have no experience with homicides. She relied on their observations that her arms and legs were rigid. So she said she was in advanced rigor mortis. So the time of death she placed anywhere from 6 to 8 hours within the time they found her at 7:15 p.m., which pushes that back to that 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock hour when Cara Rentala, the alleged murderer's phone goes silent, and except for calls that she was making to Anne Marie while she was out shopping to establish her alibi. And Anne Marie's phone goes completely silent. Yeah. Even though she had made like 40 different calls that day, or the 24 hours prior to this, it just goes silent. So that's probably when she was murdered, earlier in the day, 12:30, 1 o'clock ish, I'm guessing, before uh, Cara decides to take Brianna and go shopping. Interesting testimony. Now, the jurors are not asking questions in this case. So just to establish that. As you know, some cases they do, some cases they don't. Here, they are not asking questions. So they ended trial early on Friday. They didn't end the trial. They sent the jury home early on Friday uh, in the afternoon. They said, he said, come back on Monday. And then he came back with the lawyers, and there was a great deal of discussion about redaction, eliminating certain parts of the interrogation of Cara Rentala. Probably because she talks about paint. I mean, this paint thing is such a huge issue in this case. So the judge says, well, I have not looked at this interrogation nor read the transcript. He says, how about we go to lunch, come back at 2 o'clock, and if you're not prepared to argue your objections to portions of the interrogation that you want redacted, then we may have to continue this till Monday. So they come back at 2 o'clock, and of course, they're not ready. So they're not ready. So he says, okay, you finish it up over the weekend, get it to me, get it filed, and we'll hear argument on Monday. So yesterday comes, and they've got everything filed and they're ready to argue it. He says, but the jury's here. Let's put on the next witness. So they put on a gentleman who at the time of the murder was the chief of police to 10 officers. This was really a small police force. So he testified about an event. There was an event prior to this murder, a few months prior to this murder, where they took restraining orders out on each other. They both asked for restraining orders at the same time. Well, he was present at the police station when Cara shows up at the police station, and she's upset and she's crying. And actually, no, I'm getting that wrong. Anne Marie was the first to the police station. Anne Marie brings Brianna, and she's the first to the police station. So she complains about Cara beating her up. She wants a restraining order, and she wants Cara charged with assault. So then Cara comes in because she wants a restraining order, and the officer takes her aside and says, I'm going to have to arrest you. And so there was a lot of discussion about her demeanor. Yes, she was upset because, he says he's going to arrest her for assault. So he takes her aside and he's talking to her. She goes, well, she assaulted me. And it was actually a photo with bruises on it. And I will show you that here. Yeah, so she had this huge bruise or a mark on her neck. So that he took pictures of that. But he doesn't arrest Anna Maria. He arrests Cara. Now, there were no photos of any injuries on Anna Maria. So who's beating up who here? Who's the aggressor? I don't. So he has them both fill out the paperwork for the restraining order, and then he takes them over to the judge that's on call to get the restraining order. So next is another of the 10 officers that was on the scene. She was called out to the scene because she's a female officer. So she was called out to the murder scene, and she was asked if she could gather the clothing of Cara Rentala to, as evidence. So she takes Cara into the bathroom and has her stripped down. She bags all the clothing for evidence. Then she has her walk naked. All these other officers are at the kitchen table. Has her walk naked. She goes, well, it was a short distance to her bedroom to get clean clothes. Like, how inappropriate. Oh my God. I'd be like, can I get a robe or a towel or something? And she has to stay with her. So she gets clean clothes on. It apparently didn't bother Cara at all. So she gets clean clothes on and then takes her down to the police station for the interrogation. So we didn't get to see the interrogation yet because they're still arguing the redactions. That came later on yesterday where they talked about what they were going to redact and what they weren't going to redact. And the paint is this, the paint is wet, and the paint is fresh, and the paint, like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Anyway, they took out any portion where she talks about it being pink, and so the problem here is that apparently it'll go on. It's a ceiling paint. If you paint the ceiling, it goes on pink, and then it dries white. But if you pour it out somewhere and it's a pile of liquid, it's not going to dry as fast, and that pink's not going to go away. Maybe never. They don't have any studies to show how fast ceiling paint will dry if it's poured somewhere other than the ceiling, and how long it takes for this pink hue to go away if it's just sitting there in a puddle. So we don't know. And that's the problem with the whole paint testimony. So, coffee. This happened to be the same police officer that was present during the hearing for the restraining orders that they were both seeking from the prior witness. So that's where we're picking up. So they're both in front of this judge. Now, you've got to hear this. I mean, it's pretty scathing. It gets pretty heated. This judge is just not putting up with any nonsense from these women. Like, nope, nope, nope. Now, it sounds like he's not, like, at first when I had to listen to it a few times.
I'll call the cases at this time. On docket number 0998 RO132, Cara Rentala versus Anne Marie Rentala. On docket number 0998 RO133, Anne Marie Rentala versus Cara Rentala. Would you please raise your right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm to make true answers to such questions that shall be put to you by the court in a matter now pending? So help you God. Thank you.
All right, and for the record, who is Cara Rentala?
I am.
And you are Anne Marie Rentala? And is it my understanding that the two of you are married? And there is a child involved here, is that correct, Brianna?
Yes.
And both of you are here seeking restraining orders, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I am.
Yeah, well, I think you both are. And you're What's the status with the marriage at this point? Is there a divorce action taking place?
Karen and I got into an altercation on the 12th, early morning of the 12th.
Listen to my question. This incident happened on the 12th. Why is it that it's 2 weeks later that we're now in court?
Because Cara was served with divorce papers this morning by the sheriff. She went ballistic. Brianna and I left the home. Upon our return, which is around 1 o'clock, she started screaming, yelling, "You're not taking my house, you're not taking Brianna," because...
That's fine. You've answered the question. The Cara Rentala, what is the basis of you seeking a restraining order? Go right ahead.
Today I reached all that I can take, and I'm afraid to be in my house because of what Ann's going to say, because I'm constantly threatened, verbally and bodily, as far as in my personal space, all the time. And I called the police department twice, and I had asked what to do about it. And today, if she's right, I mean, I filed 2 weeks ago, and I held it off, and then
You filed what 2 weeks ago?
I filed divorce 2 weeks ago.
You filed papers?
I did, and then
And
I didn't have them served because my lawyer said that double luck, because they can't afford it, and let's see if we can't do the mediation together. And I told him, and she freaked. And then about a week ago, I told him so that she could start saving some money if we could do it together, or she'd have to come up with a lot of money. And then when I told her that, she went and got a lawyer and had me served. So when he called me Friday, we were going to the zoo. And he told me Friday, you can come to the zoo and meet me, or I'll be home all week long. And so that's when I got the papers today. And what brought it up today is I had taken Brianna, our daughter, down to see my family in Rhode Island on Sunday. And when we came back, Ann said since I had her by myself, that Ann wanted her for herself today or tomorrow. And I said, go ahead. Go right ahead, take her. I don't ask her if she's going. I'll ask her when she'll come back, because, she's her mom too. But if it were me, I need to, I have to tell her exactly where I'm going and when I'm going to be back. And so today, I was reading to my lawyer about the whole thing, and we had always said we were going to share custody, because Ann loves Brianna as much as I do, and I'm a great mom, and she's a great mom. And then when I read down the fact that she was going for custody, I called her on the telephone, because she had said she wanted the day with her. I said, by all means, of course you can have the day. And so we were talking on the phone, and then I hung up because I was very upset. And I talked to her mom, and I said I was upset because we had agreed that we were going to do this together. And I got in my car to go drive away, and she was behind me. And she drove one way, and I drove the other. And when she came home a little bit later, Brianna came running to me because I hadn't seen her, and was upset, was mad because she was only there for a little bit and I was holding her, and again, she just loud, and she constantly threatens me because we had, up until October, there was an incident in October, and we had, the two of us had, it's a long story, but up until October, it's only been verbal. And she constantly threatens me that she's going to take away my job, my livelihood, my daughter, and she's constantly threatening me. I call my parents, I've called 3 lawyers because they don't know what to do. I feel so helpless. It's like, helpless, because no matter what I do, if she comes in my face, I have to look away or look down because she says we already have set precedent.
All right.
So I'm afraid. I want peace in the house. My family lives in Rhode Island. It's not, and I own the house. I pay the whole mortgage myself. I pay all the bills myself, and that's what I don't need. And Ann's family lives 1 town away. I said, is there any way you could just stay with your family for a little bit, just because there's no volatility in front of Brianna, and that's all. I'm just nervous. I don't know what to do.
Well, I'm sorry? Very briefly.
I was very upset because I wanted a divorce.
No, I filed first, and I'm sorry.
I rotated on Cara's schedule. She has a fixed schedule, so when she has to work, I have to either
and that case was
all dismissed because there were lies.
all right.
So I believed her, and since then, the reason why I actually spoke to her May 6th, May 12th, when I told her I wanted a divorce. She went and did the paperwork, and since then, taking my name out of things and trying to get my name, trying to get me to sign papers, to get my name off
All right.
insurances.
This is an issue that goes well beyond
Yes.
a simple restraining order. We can have criminal charges going back and forth against both of you, and the only one that's going to really affect in the long run is your daughter.
Right.
Because eventually, with what's going on here, DCF is going to be involved.
Right.
And neither one of you will have to worry about custody, because DCF will come in, and the DCF will take the child and deal with the child and put the child in a home that's a little more stable. That's where we are. With respect to both of you. Listen to me. I'm going to issue 2 restraining orders of no abuse. No abuse. The 2 of you both have lawyers in the probate court. Deal with it with respect to your marriage. Get into the probate court and resolve it. I'm not going to order the custody of this child to either of you at this point. You're going to have to deal with it as parents.
Did I say something?
Very briefly.
Thank you for the joint custody, because that's what truly is best for our daughter. I firmly believe that. Second of all, as far as the home situation, it's very volatile as far as like arguments, and it's not healthy for us both to be there, which is what I called the Granby Police Department. They came down today and they told me to come here because I fear that Brianna hears, this, and we can't both be there.
Yeah, then you know something?
There's one town away. Is there any way, Ann, please? If my family lived the next town, I would go there.
If you wanted to go there, I'm going to give her the custody of the child at this point. I'm not going to play games with this. The 2 of you can either deal with this as adults and deal with it in the probate court as your marriage dissolves, or if you want, I'll call DCF right now. And I'll have DCF come in here, and I'll indicate to them that I don't think either one of you is stable enough to deal with that child. That's how close I am to going off this bench and picking up the phone right now. Is that what you want?
Definitely not.
Is that what you want? And the ultimate issue of custody and visitation and support, all of that's going to come out of the probate court. But right now, the 2 of you are going to walk a very fine line. You're either going to exist in that house until you get this straightened out, or you're going to look at criminal charges, one or both of you, and I can promise you this. If one of you makes an allegation of abuse against the other, you better have documentation, because the other one's going to make the same allegation, and at that point there's going to be criminal charges against both of you. And I promise you, if I see that come into this court, I will be on the phone to DCF so fast, they'll be here before you get out the door.
It's not, he did not deny them the restraining orders. They both got restraining orders on each other, but there's different things you can be restrained from doing. There's all these conditions of a restraining order, and he just put in there that they cannot abuse each other. He checked the abuse box. Restraining order against abuse for both of them. So you can't abuse her and you can't abuse her. But he didn't say, he says, no, I want you guys, he didn't order that they stay apart. He didn't order that Brianna go with one or the other. He said, you guys need to go home and work it out. Like, what? So at first I was a little critical because I thought, oh, he didn't grant the restraining orders, but he did, in a sense, grant the restraining orders. But he sends them home to work it out. What? Well, you see how it worked out, right? Anne Marie ends up dead. They worked it out. There you go, Judge. It's all worked out. Yeah. Oh my God. Interesting case. Now, I did not get the last portion of the witness yesterday, and I apologize. Just time flies when you're having fun. All right. Now you want to know what I did yesterday? Well, after, this whole bicycle thing or let's start at the beginning. Car accident. Get paid, the car's paid off. I get a little money to go buy another car. Can't afford it because the interest rates are ridiculous and the selection of cars is just, I don't want a car with 100,000 miles on it. I just don't. And apparently a lot of the cars that were made during COVID 2020, 21, 22, 100,000 miles on it because nobody was flying back then and they were all just driving everywhere apparently. So no car. Money's in the bank account. So I have a bicycle. I get the bicycle out of the shed. I order a tire pump up the tires. I order a lock, forget to put it on. The bicycle's on the side of my house. And what do you think happens? Gone. Yep, bicycle's gone. Rode it one time and it's gone. Now, I had the weirdest reaction. Like, first, it's like a little relief, like, oh, I don't have to ride it again because it's gone. Because let me tell you, I'm out of shape. My plan was to ride it often and get into shape again. Nope, gone. Then I got angry. I'm like, you know what? Why am I doing this? Why am I, this woman ran into me and pushed me into another car. I should not be in a worse off position. I should not be on house arrest. Sans the ankle monitor, no. So I said, this is just not working out the way it should. So I called a lawyer and I have hired a personal injury attorney. And we're going to go after the driver and the owner of that vehicle because the driver was not the owner of the vehicle. And I don't know if she has insurance or not. I don't care. If she's got a dog, I want it. Yeah. She needs to be in a worse off position, not me. I don't know what her circumstances are. And maybe I should feel bad for her that day that her foot slipped off the brake because she was playing around with her sandal or whatever it was. I don't know. But, I'm angry about it. I'm really, really angry. So that's where I am with that. Anyway, I hired a lawyer. Now it's up there. I still don't have a car. Still don't have a car. But it's okay. I can walk to the grocery. It's right up the street. Aldi's is right up the street. And they have good prices and the produce there is ridiculously good. So yeah, I'll pretend like I live in like this European village where you walk every morning to get fresh bread and yeah. When I went to Spain, it was like that. I spent 10 days in Spain with a local family, and every morning someone from the house would walk down to the little markets that were just downstairs and grab some fresh bread and whatever they wanted to eat for that day, and it was very cool. It was really cool because they have teeny tiny places in Spain. Like there was four adults living in this apartment and it was tiny, but the furniture was ornate and the kitchen was practically non-existent because they just go down to these markets during the day and get what they need. And I've gone way far afield of hiring the lawyer. I am so sorry. My gosh. All right, guys, have a great day. I will see you tomorrow on Crafting and Crime Daily. It's Tuesday. Yay! Yeah, I don't know why I'm saying yay, but yeah, Tuesday. Just another manic Tuesday. All right, bye, everybody. Have a great day.